Hello, and welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. My name is Richie Richey. I am from the MHRT Network. Over to my left is Monsieur Alex Givens of Arrowhead Addict. You can check out his content and articles posted on that site over there. Directly below me is Coach Defense of the Locked Down Defense podcast. Premiere or flagship episode, I believe, is Tuesdays with you and Coach Kurt. That's honestly, it's quite the show. Friendly banter back and forth. I'm going to be back to start heckling again. In full disclosure,
he'll be back.
Right. That's important.
Yeah,
and,
Kurt has missed you.
But do you just sit there? You just sit there and just jab at him, or what?
Oh yeah. They just go back and forth.
Yeah. That's my job at that point.
When's this on? Tuesdays?
Tuesday night.
Tuesdays at 9.
I jump in from time. I remember I jumped in and said the Amelia Earhart offense or something, which we don't talk about anymore.
We don't.
Full circle.
Yeah,
we're off Amelia.
Yeah.
Well, I will try. I will try to hit up some Tuesdays, but normally I'm busy on Tuesdays as well. Although I'm going to drop it now. If you are watching this show and you are a football fan, okay, if you are a football fan, make sure next Tuesday night on my channel, we're going to have on Raider great safety Van McElroy, okay, in an interview. Hopefully it'll be he'll come in studio. If not, he'll come in on the phone. He'll be in a car, by the way. He's already told me this. He'll be in a car, so I don't know what the Wi-Fi stuff will be out in Arizona at the time. So it's either going to be via the phone or he already has the link, so that works if there's Wi-Fi. So I'm very happy to say Van McElroy will be joining me next Tuesday night, 9:00 Eastern, on a special show. I'm trying to get some Raiders on and doing my part. But again, it's a great football player, an all-pro football player for the Raiders. One of the better players that we've had.
What's the time on that one again?
9:00 Eastern on my YouTube channel.
Perfect. So and just for those of you who missed, he kind of jumped his own intro there, but down to the bottom right there on the screen is Captain Jack of the Captain Jack Rackham Show. You can catch him on YouTube and everywhere else.
And I said he wasn't pointing, but I'll do the pointing correctly, by the way, because I know if he's up there, I got to point opposite.
That's right.
So, I just do this.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Now that we've all taken turns faking the whole Vanna White role.
Did the Spider-Man.
Yeah. No, it's him. So anyways, guys, we have a pretty cool show for you tonight. We're going to go over position battles in the pre/post mandatory minicamps and whatnot for each of our teams. And we're also going to delve into a little bit of one surprise starter that we think is going to be on each and every one of our teams and rosters. I really think that as we've talked about on several of our podcasts, the entire AFC West as a division went the opposite direction that we did the last offseason. And I think as a result of that, some of these kind of under the radar guys that we've all brought in each of our teams, there's going to be a lot of them that are going to start stepping up and surprising a lot of, we'll say, the more casual fans that don't kind of do this and look into this on a regular basis like we do. I think it'll be a really interesting discussion for all of us to have. For all of you who are joining us live, please leave your questions in the comments there. We will do our very best to get to them. If you would like to heckle me, please feel free to do so as well. I appreciate all of the friendly banter. And
I welcome that as well.
Oh, yeah, it's great. With that in mind, let's get going. Alex, over to you, and maybe start with some of your position battles. You decided to bring a KC beer mug and join me in an adult beverage. So how are you doing, and who do you think is going to kind of
I have my stuff, so I got stuff. I ain't opened the Canadian stuff yet, but I'm saving that for the season.
You know, because the cap's still on as he's
the real question is the KY still there? Since
we're
going on
you had to ask.
items.
Yeah. Jesus. Now, how full is
the
it?
line?
The line is at the line. There's been no KY used.
All right.
I have not used it and put back water. So the KY line.
Wait. If you have to explain it in that manner, I call
Now you're over explaining it.
Yeah.
Kind of being suspect
here. Yeah.
Doing that stuff.
Blow the whistle.
It was a simple demonstration. I didn't need the explanation. Now it's a bit over the top.
I'm still looking for the strawberry shit. Okay, that's what I'm going to
Now the suits seem kind of messed up.
As those in the court of law would often say, thou doth protest too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
as I usually say when someone does that, I go, my question was a little more specific.
See, the KY where it should be.
Anyone have some Banaka?
How about a mince?
I got to make up for last week. I wasn't here.
So Alex,
I got it in. Yeah, I got that in early.
Position battles in terms of what's going on and where you're at.
Before we go completely off the rails, let's stay on topic.
Yeah. We'll get back. We'll get back to that realm, but back into football here. I identified, which I think I know we kind of tried to limit it to 3. And honestly, I think the 3 that I'm going to bring up outside of the last one are definitely 2 that I know we've discussed on the show before. I'd say the most important position battle for the Chiefs is going to be
quarterback.
Oh, Jesus.
No. Close. Whoever starts on the opposite side of Jawan Taylor. There's obviously no clarity on is Taylor right tackle versus left tackle. I imagine he's going to be right tackle with the signing of Donovan Smith. But I still think that kind of opens the door for a battle between, Donovan Smith, Wanye Morris, who they drafted out of Oklahoma, and Lucas Niang, who's been around for a few years now and has always mentioned to kind of take the next step to start. But either way, I think that you saw them bring in Donovan Smith because, they wanted some competition on that side of the ball. And obviously, Patrick Mahomes is the most important player in KC. And so protecting him's probably priority 1. So it's going to be a very pivotal key battle, for whoever wins that. I would imagine it's Donovan Smith. He's a well-renowned left tackle with Super Bowl starting experience.
Yeah.
And, obviously not the long-term answer, but at least a stopgap to make up for the loss of Orlando Brown while not replenishing with an elite left tackle. It's funny, though, Orlando Brown was never elite when he's in KC, but he leaves, and then everyone's like, how could KC let an elite tackle leave? But, that's a different story. So, to me, I think that's the biggest and most important one. Obviously, you got to protect the quarterback, and we saw what can happen with KC's offense when they don't make that a priority, a la Super Bowl against Tom Brady. So, I think that's the most important one. The next one I think Coach is going to like a little bit because I know from our convos last week, and for prepping for this, kind of looked at Chamari Connor's film a little bit. Dude is a beast, and I honestly think that's going to be the second biggest battle in the minicamp. I know we kind of talked about it last week of replenishing the secondary, not only with the guys they drafted last year that are returning for sophomore years, but rookies like Chamari Connor, and also brought in Mike Edwards, another Tampa Bay guy who he played pretty well last year, but was obviously in more of a reserve role until Winfield got hurt. He has good ball hawking skills, but I don't know if he's the guy that can necessarily be the nickel back, third safety that Chiefs use a lot of. So yeah. Never been another. I think we hit a nerve with Richie. That's like that's their thing.
And I like Nickelback. I'm sorry, shoot me. I like Nickelback.
I do too. I don't think anyone hates them. I think they just publicly say
Is
that.
it Nickelback or Nickelbag?
Well, no, that's Daryl Dimebag, the main piece.
Guitarist.
Yeah. Okay.
See, I know the bags, man. I know the bags and the bags. I've never had any.
Yeah. Way to clean it up.
No, I have it, and I can prove.
Well, the
that.
purple dust doesn't come in a bag.
No. That's no, you were talking about the microdots. That's PCP, man.
Yeah, there we go.
See,
aerosol cans don't count either because it's air, right?
Paint, you're huffing paint. That's not in a bag.
There you go. Sniffing glue. Aerosol, man.
Meth, stuff like that. That's all it does. Just kidding. Okay. And someone had to make it dark. I might as well do it. But back to the battle. I think Chamari Connor has a real good chance to overtake Mike Edwards. And they obviously liked what they saw in film and evaluating him for the draft because they traded up to get him. So I think that's definitely one to watch. Like I said, Mike Edwards, very good ball hawking skills, but was a reserve safety for Tampa Bay until Winfield got hurt. So we'll see if he kind of has what it takes to be in a more everyday role, or if last year was kind of a flash in the pan, if you will, for him. And then the last one, which Capso graciously kind of alluded to indirectly, but my last position battle is for the backup quarterback, because this will be the first time in, I think, since Mahomes has been there, that they have a new backup, new blood in the QB room. And there's at least a handful of times I can think of when something's happened where Chad Henne's had to come in and be able to keep the offense going in some pretty pivotal moments of games. I mean, in AFC playoff game against the Browns, Henne had to come in and keep the ball moving. I think had a scoring drive, and then
he legit won you several games.
Yeah, and I mean, there's been at least two regular season games that had to have the backup QB come in and keep the thing moving as best you can. So with him being retired now, I think that's kind of an interesting battle to watch, and I think a pretty important one in terms of keeping the championship pedigree around the offense. Obviously have Blaine Gabbert, Cocaine Blaine, Mizzou's own to come in.
Cocaine Blaine.
I mean, he's been around since 2011. So I mean, I've obviously been around the block, but not a starting presence or anything like that. You know what you get with him. He's like Chase Daniel. Both Mizzou guys, ironically enough, but you're getting paid to be there because they know they can make the throws, but they've never had it to be a full-time starter. So you got him coming in with experience, and then on top of that, I got Shane Buechele. I think he's second or third year. He's an old Texas quarterback that I think this is his third year, but so he's been in the system for 3 years now. Was a guy Andy Reid handpicked out of the undrafted players, like a guy he wanted to bring in, and they've obviously kept him around for this long. I think he's been mostly a practice squad guy, but has gotten elevated to the game day roster here and there. But also been in the system and more experience in that regard than Blaine Gabbert is. So I think, to me, that's an interesting one to watch to see. Does the veteran presence overtake the scheme experience, or vice versa? And that, I think, can be an important position and battle to play out with what Casey wants to do next year. So there you go.
Actually, that's a super interesting point with the backup quarterback, because you have had in the recent last 2 years where you've had the benefit of a veteran guy just, coming in and doing stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And,
anything is possible, baby. Anything.
Yeah. So that's a super interesting point that you've lost that, because it's you know,
I
think
mean,
that,
you don't think about it, right? Like, you got Patrick Mahomes, so why would you think about that? But you know,
except he's been hurt the last 2 years. He's missed a couple games here and there, right? And so that matters.
Or like you have a situation come out like against the Browns 2 years ago, and he had to finish. I think finish the game out. And I know he came in at one point. Yeah. And I know he came in, I think, for one drive against Jacksonville, maybe this playoffs, and you know, scored. So, you know, you need someone that, like, I mean, realistically speaking, right? If any of our teams lose their starting quarterback, it drastically changes how the team looks and expectations of performance. But in the ideal situation, you want your two deep to be crafted in a way to where if something like that happens, you don't lose too much of a step, you know?
Right.
Like, you're not going to be the same. You're not going to be able to do all the same stuff. Otherwise, they're starting. But, like, you want it to be in a situation, and you know, don't get me wrong, I'm not naive. Like, if we lost Patrick Mahomes, it's a totally different Kansas City team, and probably not one that a lot of people would be afraid of playing. But you still would want someone who's experienced enough and knows what Reed wants to do and how they want to distribute the ball to be able to come in, and you're still able to get first downs, and you're still able to put scoring drives together when you need it. To me, I think that's a very important battle. You know, not the most important. I didn't put it at one, but at least it's interesting to see as well. Because also, you know, if Buechele wins, maybe they don't keep Blaine Gabbert, and he's a relatively young guy. So it kind of be an interesting arc to watch his career play out from this point. I want to say he's 24, 25. You know, if he's behind Mahomes for 3 years, maybe you see some team give him a contract to try to get a starting spot. So, you know, you got two different guys at different points of their career, and I think it'll be interesting to see who beats out who for number two. Number two.
Just listen to this list: Blaine Gabbert, Brian Hoyer, Jared Stidham, and Easton Stick.
That's the backups, baby.
That's
don't be so fast on that Hoyer.
Well, I actually believe that Max Duggan's is going to be our backup. So I was going to say I don't believe that Easton Stick's going to be the backup come the regular season. I think it's not Max Duggan. Big game Max.
I'm sorry,
Max.
You missed Ben DiNucci.
Yeah, I didn't go too deep. I didn't go too deep into the backup role, but yeah, who do you have slated on the depth chart right now too? That's the names.
Ben Balafungu. Hey, there you go.
It's gonna be
but I only mentioned Ben DiNucci there because he played rather well in the
arena or XFL.
In the league there I think
he
that
was pretty solid.
He was also pretty decent for Dallas. Yeah, he was decent for Dallas too. So I'm only bringing him up. I mean, not only did I want to pronounce his name, you know, with the extra oomph behind it.
No, you got to say it. You got the Rigot. You got the Paisan, and you got the Danucci. Hey.
Yeah.
Hey, what's the matter? I smack your face. There you go.
Right. And so my point though is that backup quarterback position is almost now becoming like one of like a tackle almost in terms of importance at the NFL level, because you're going to have your starter go down 1, maybe 2 games, because they're trying to be extra cautious with their guys. Like that's what they're doing with Mahomes. That's what they're doing with all the other guys. I mean, heck, even Herbert, for example, if he gets hurt, they're going to try to sit him for that extra game because they don't want him to get hurt and they want him to try to, you know, rest up and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So that backup role is so important.
Well, and more so now they get that rule where you can carry an extra quarterback and it's not doesn't take up a roster spot.
Well, and like look at how much money. Like look, go look at Chase Daniel's career earnings, like versus career starts. And I mean, that'll tell you right there why people value a solid backup.
It's clear to us that we did things wrong in life because we could have followed Chase Daniels' arc and way of making money, and we'd have been living a good life right now.
If coach would just put me in, man.
Well, also along those lines,
throwing pigskin over the mountains there.
Long snapper.
Yeah.
Long snapper.
Well,
yeah, long snapper. Dude, Trey Junkin was a long snapper for 20 friggin' years in the NFL.
Yeah,
but that's the
not,
thing.
That's not today.
Backup quarterback cycle more so than long snappers. Like you said, 20 years.
That'll be a punter.
That one team is not going to need a long snapper. So you gotta realize that the idea of them going getting a long snapper is going to be few and far between. You're not looking for one every year.
Minimum, veteran minimum versus I don't know what a good backup contract
money,
is, but a couple million a year. Like,
right.
Hold a clipboard, maybe make a couple signs here and there.
City's making 10 a year for the Broncos.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, like Chase Daniel's career earning, like the breakdown of it is kind of ridiculous. You're just like,
ain't no kinda. It is.
There's no
kinda in that. Like it is.
It is ridiculous.
It is terrible.
And I honestly think it's because he was fortunate enough to.
Well, you blame a lot of it. You blame on Sean Payton because Sean Payton kept him around for a good little while.
Yeah, and he was behind Drew Brees, right?
Which means he never played.
Like I said, like I was getting at the Shane Buechele, right? If he beats out, it's kind of a similar look or how it could be perceived. And then I think it'd be interesting to see how franchises now moving forward kind of value that. Especially with so many. I feel like there's more pro-ready quarterbacks now with that run. All the stuff that like I'm trying to say like NFL. I feel like is more tailored to the college game now than it used to be, and
Correct. Correct.
more and more like there's more like young blood, right? So I think you'll start to see and more potential in that. So I think you'll start to see. We've already seen it in running backs and wide receivers, but
that's easy because what you're seeing from the offense is you're seeing more 3 wide and 4 wide sets at the NFL level. The college guys are now throwing 60% of the snaps that they're taking. And at the NFL level, the defenses are moving to nickel and dime, which is exactly what the college level defenses have already been doing for quite a number of years now. There's only a handful that are still running that kind of like base style, middle linebacker, that kind of standard defense. And so you're getting the offense that's now catching up to what your point was, and they're throwing against what used to happen is at the NFL level, they would still throw up against base defenses more, even though the college game had gone more pass heavy. So they were used to playing against bigger, faster guys, and now the NFL defenses has started to shift over to the college style as well.
Yeah. Quick breakdown, since I'm gonna make this full circle here. Chase Daniel overall has thrown 261 passes in his career, started only 5 games, and has earned $40 million.
Yep, I just made the numbers. I just read the numbers, so I'm like, wow, $40 million over how long? Was he in the league since 2009? He signed in 2009.
Yeah. Yeah. So
wow.
That's wild.
It is wild. It is wild. Like I said, we're doing life wrong. Like, to be a 6 foot, I'm 6 foot, 225,
Oh, and he's like 5'11". He's not.
Yeah, he's not really not 6 foot. Yeah, he's really not 6 foot. For real.
He's 6 foot on a program.
$43.12 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not dumb.
Yeah, right.
Make you mad.
Yeah, just to show up and get the starters bags. That's it.
That's it. I mean, his
agent did well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, but right there, right, is a prime example of. And you could probably go back with a lot of guys and find the typical similar career earnings. But I mean, prime example of why the backup QB is a valuable asset to have on a team, and why Who was
that guy that was in New York to finish his career that everyone was speculating would turn into an NFL coach? I think he had a brother in the league too.
McCown.
He
is a coach with the Panthers.
Yeah, so I think that he's another one of those dudes that he was like a career backup. But I think his career earnings are somewhere up in the 40 million too.
Or you got like Fitzpatrick, who's always somehow ends up starting, but it's never brought in with the intention of giving him the keys to the kingdom.
He has been brought in to be like the backup or bridge quite
and then
often.
Somehow ends up
he's starting the whole year.
Balls, because he just balls
magic,
out.
baby.
he balls out for like a 4-game span, and that's just enough for people to be like, all right, we can do this with Fitz here, and then it just, trickles back down to reality.
Craters. It just craters. It always does.
Yeah.
That's his problem.
I mean, that was like 4 games in Tampa Bay when he's throwing like 400 yards a game, like wearing chains with his chest, like chest
shirtless with the taco meat out.
Yeah. Just feeling himself,
There you go. He even bought out at the beginning of his tenure with Miami. He kind of fizzled at the end. Fitz magic turned to Fitz tragic, but at least in the first part of the year he was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. He's always done things like that in his career. He just can't maintain that level. He's the definition of like the flash in the pan guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
he's the definition of it, and it's so sad because he's clearly got the talent. He just can't string it together.
Yeah, he's made $80 million over his career.
And he undrafted guy from Harvard, so I mean he would have been fine regardless. But
right. 7th round. He did. He did say a 7th-round pick from the Rams.
Oh, then okay. Well,
yeah, he got drafted in the 7th round. Yeah, still from Harvard though. Yep.
Yeah, because $80 million.
That
was when the Rams were in St. Louis, and that was like post Kurt Warner,
2005.
And he went berserk for like 3 games. I think that started the Fitz magic though.
Right.
I'm not wearing a Broncos shirt. I just came from work. It's a golf shirt. My goodness. Can't you see the golf logo? Here. PGA, man. PGA. Do you see that?
DEN.
No.
I just find it funny. You wear anything that's not your team colors, everybody goes crazy.
My goodness.
That's why.
Officially, you are no longer allowed to wear anything that is not silver and black, according to every single Raiders fan.
Oh my God! Stand by. I will go.
You have to only have silver and black. That's all.
Shame on you.
I will go change.
Shame.
Stand by a friggin' second.
Ring the shame bell. Shame.
No. Hey, right here, bell. Right here. Hey.
We got the back earlier. Now we're getting the front.
There you go.
Baby. I'll be right back. Friggin', who is that? Is it Anthony? Anthony, hey, right here, Anthony. There you go. There's your Italian salute, Anthony. I'll be right back.
Made the man go change. Terrible.
Yourself.
Well, see, now he's going to have to rearrange his entire closet. It's going to have silver on the one side, black on the other, and then the ones that combine silver and black are all in the middle.
There you go.
And then burn the rest.
There you go.
So I actually think that the Chargers have one of the next most interesting group of position battles, Coach. You have some rather large looming contracts that are coming up. I think as a result, finding replacements for your starters will be perhaps more critical than, say, some of the other teams in the division, because some of our larger contracts have already basically been settled. So curious as to where you're landing on the same kind of topic there for the Chargers, and kind of more importantly, who your emphasis is on in terms of who's going to win and which ones are most critical.
Well, actually, mine are just really about the young guys. I mean, it has nothing to do with the veterans. I think the veterans are going to be what they are. I think they understand that this is the year. This is, just push all the chips to the middle for them.
Yeah. And,
they know they're the incumbent, they're the starter. They've been in the system. I mean, everybody's learning Kellen Moore. If you're an offensive player, everybody learns Kellen Moore offense from ground zero. But if you're a defensive guy, you already know what it is. Just have to go play, And so for me, I think the most interesting one, I'm gonna start with defense. It's kind of an underrated one for a lot of people that are, I guess you could say casual fans. Is the slot corner position that got vacated by Bryce Callahan last year. So we drafted 2 guys in later rounds in the previous draft, Jasir Taylor and Dean Leonard. So I think that is a watchful moment for who's going to play that slot position, and maybe, just maybe, depending on what J.C. Jackson's health is, they're going to depend on whether or not he's ready for week one. Let me say that will be determined how much these guys play holistically. Because let's say hypothetically he's not ready, then Asante and Michael Davis go outside. You have one guy that has to play the slot, and then when you go particular nickel or dime for that matter, when they go heavy receivers, then you're going to get both these guys on the field more than likely. Based upon how they deploy things. So I would say that the slot quarterback position, who locks it up, JC or no JC, I say that that determines that's going to be exactly what is he doing? Oh Lord,
that's for you, Anthony. That's for you. Mind your biscuits.
Mind your biscuits.
And life will be gravy. Now, granted, I'm wearing this shirt backwards, just so I can get the message across, because this is actually on the back of a shirt because you were saying I was wearing a Broncos shirt. This is from, where's this from, Alex?
Missouri? I don't know. KC? Is that the Big Biscuit? You went to the Big Biscuit, didn't you?
Big Biscuit. So, right. So I was accused of wearing a Broncos shirt, which it was not. I'm wearing a Big Biscuit shirt from Kansas City, right? And I have on Gargler Blue. Okay, so I have the trifecta of FU right here. Okay, it's not what you think it is, but I wanted to make sure I got everybody covered. Okay, so there, Anthony, hey, Bafungu, hey, there you go.
So for us, I think slot corner is an interesting one. I think who's going to play slot, because I think, to Richie's point earlier about how defenses are deployed and how offenses are deployed nowadays, a lot of nickel and dime packages are played more so based upon personnel. So I think that is a very important position. Like I said, depending on what JC does, if JC plays, it bumps everybody down in a sense, because he's definitely going to play outside. You can look at Asante maybe being in the slot, Michael Davis being in the slot. Just depends on the matchups.
He's kind of been your slot, right, Asante?
No, actually, he was the outside guy more so. Michael Davis. Well, actually, I lied. Michael Davis was actually the fourth guy with JC, Asante on the outside. Bryce Callahan was in the slot, and then Michael Davis was the fourth guy. But then JC got hurt, so he got thrust into the outside role for JC, and then just trickled down from there. But I think that position is a very interesting one. Like I said, depending on JC's health to determine who plays, and I have my trepidation about Michael Davis, and honestly, some people love him. Some people can take him or leave him. For the amount of money he's making, I'm like, he's not a world-beating corner for my money. So I would love to see one of these young guys kind of ascend and kind of take the reins going forward, especially when they're on the cheap deal. So I'm looking at the slot corner as my number one position battle. Who wins that out? And again, it's predicated upon JC's health, and I would argue that you want to bring it back slow potentially. So I would say that the young guys get a lot of playing time between Dean Leonard and Justin Taylor, whoever wins the job out of camp. My second one is maybe more of an obvious one. I think is slot wide receiver. With Quentin Johnston being the number one pick, Josh Palmer being an incumbent, and Jalen Guyton being a returner, who wins the slot receiver position? I think I would say based upon likeness and preference, I say that I think Quentin Johnston has the edge in that regard. But I think that, like I said, with Josh Palmer being there already and kind of being, a person that's been in the system for a while, he has a chance. And Jalen Guyton is a speedier guy, but he's coming off of ACL. So, I think that Quentin Johnston, is just dependent on how he picks up the offense will determine, where he gets deployed and how early he gets deployed on the field. But I mean, he's a first round pick and as a wide receiver, so you would like to believe that he's going to be on the field in certain.
He's going to get some targets.
Yeah, you're going to be in there. He'll be there somewhere. It's just a matter of you're not holding him off, hoping somebody gets hurt and he gets on the field. No, he's going to be in certain packages, if not a all flat out starter come week one, in my opinion. So those that's my second one, and the third one is inside linebacker between Kenneth Murray and Deion Henley. I think they drafted Deion Henley with him thinking he has a really high upside, and Kenneth Murray being on his contract year. Although there have been reports that Kenneth Murray has been really showing signs of life, being mentored and tutored by Eric Kendricks.
That's so he needs money, man.
Well, that too. But I think they're talking about it from a football and intelligence perspective. Like he's picking up things faster. So just in coverages and how he read and reacts defenses. So I think that might be a very interesting because Deion is a rookie, obviously, and Ken have been in the league for 3 years. So that'll be interesting to see if he can usurp him in the lineup, being that he's going to likely be the future because he drafted him in the 3rd round. With Ken obviously being on the contract year, and I could say that they could potentially bring him back if he has a banner year, but from a money perspective, you would think that just on financials alone that he's likely going to be gone. So
how many dudes ball out when they need money only to revert back?
Ask Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott. Yeah, he showed out.
I think pretty much every player that has been put in a situation of needing to perform to get paid does, and then it's, well, do we pay him or franchise tag him?
Right. And then you get people like Josh Jacobs who balled out for 2.5 years and still can't get paid. Saquon either. So
that's the running back.
The running back market.
Don't lump them into this.
Yeah. But just give a use case for that particular aspect of it. But yeah, so I think that slot corner, slot wide receiver, and inside linebacker is probably the biggest. I would say as honorable mention is safety too, between Aloli Gilman and JT Woods. But my top 3 is definitely those 3 positions: slot corner, slot wide receiver, and inside linebacker. Questions, concerns, comments.
What about higher value positions? As an example, wide receivers. Do you perhaps see the Chargers trying to either convert to get rid of, or those your veteran wide receivers? Because I'm just looking at your contracts, your cap space, looking ahead next year, and then even looking at some other positions where. I think we spoke about it right pre-draft, which is your edge group, for example, or your pass rush. If you want to just kind of generalize, you've had some injuries at that position group. So, do you think that you might see any of those guys that like UDFAs or even draft picks that might step into any of those positions that are kind of like have been highlighted to be challenges?
No, I've actually read a few different reports, and different people, and they're all saying the same thing, that they really like the edge rushing group that they have in house at the moment. I think they got about 4 or 5 deep in just that position alone. With your incumbents, Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, you have Thule, who we just drafted from USC. Chris Rump's been there. He's going into his 3rd year. So I think those 4 especially. And you also can argue that Morgan Fox is a hybrid. D tackle / DN, so he's technically a rusher, especially on 3rd down. Although he plays more interior, more 3 and 5 technique versus the edge. So I think and Sebastian Joseph Day is a hybrid from my money as well. So I think that with 2 solid hybrid DTs and 4 edge rushers, I think that's a pretty solid room from my perspective in regards to the depth that they have. So I think that we're in a much better spot this year than we were in the last couple of years. When it comes to that. Yeah, when it comes to wide receiver, I think like I said, I think Herbert is very comfortable with Mike and Keenan. He's getting comfortable with of course he's been with Josh and Jalen since they've been there. So he's comfortable with the first 4 guys, and then Quinn coming in, getting comfortable with him. He's the last cog in the car, in my opinion. So I think that he can get comfortable with them. They will just roll with that group as is this year. And then, we'll address who comes and goes come next offseason. But I think they fully expect to run with Keenan and Mike primarily on the outside. And just a question to my position battle group, who wins the slot receiver role. And it may be a game-to-game situational type of move where you might feel like that one guy has an edge against one team in their matchups, and another guy might have an advantage against another team. So that they might deploy it that way. Yeah, they might deploy it that way. But you feel like if they have a weaker, slower slot corner, you might want to put Jalen Guyton out there because he's the fastest out of the group. But if you got a guy that's small, 5'8", 5'9" guy, and Quentin Johnson is 6'3", you would have put him out
and
there.
Fast. And pretty fast.
And pretty fast. So you might want to put him out there. So it just depends on how you deploy him.
I think it'd be kind of interesting to see if they, obviously if they're all healthy, right? But kind of almost, it's like Allen, Johnson, and Williams, and it's just those 3, and you kind of interchange who's inside, Which I think, because like you look at, I'm trying to, because I feel like didn't Kellen Moore kind of do that with Amari Cooper when they had him, like put him in the slot, and he was kind of balling, when they had CD on the outside. So I think, and he's kind
when
of
Gallup was healthy. Yeah, when Gallup was healthy,
yeah.
they did a lot of mixing of that.
Yeah, but I think that'd be a cool, definitely change of pace for Herbert and like the overall passing attack. But if you have all three of them healthy, it's kind of like you wouldn't know where the ball's going, because they're all three like the same type of big bodied, like high point the ball receiver. So that'd be, be nice.
For once, it's a good problem to have. For once. So yeah, I like where things are trending. Like I said, just a matter of the unknowns is Kellen Moore's offense and how he deploys his personnel. Because you still have Gerald Everett, who had a banner year, his best year as a pro, pass catching pro last year with Herbert. You still have him as a weapon inside, and you have a 6'8" Donald Parham and Eckler out of the backfield. So I think, and Josh Kelly been religiously working on his pass catching abilities. To kind of aid in his ability to be a 3-down back as well. So, so I think that it just depends on how you utilize his personnel is going to dictate how well the offense runs early. Of course, everybody kind of figures it out mid to late season, but it just depends on how he deploys guys and utilizes guys early. Will determine the success of the offense.
That's I only asked the question simply because when you look at where you guys were at last season, and every one of those starters that you mentioned at both of those kind of position groups, and I'm using that in a broad sense, given that Mac is typically a D-end hybrid
position group.
Yeah, he kind of does both, right? A little bit. I was simply asking just because at one point all of them were not playing.
Well, Mac was the only person that wasn't hurt all year last year. He's the only one.
Well, yeah. And sorry, when I say not playing, I mean he kind of like Mac literally disappeared for chunks of the season last year, where he really wasn't having the impact that I think that you guys all expected him to have. And so when you're looking at,
he got the Myles Garrett treatment before he got another edge rusher. They just double and chip him. Sometimes they double him and chip him. So it's really hard to make any hay in the pass rush game when you only have to focus on one guy.
Which is to some degree what you pay those guys to do, is draw attention and free up someone else,
Right, but the problem is you're decimated on the D-line, interior, and edge. He was the only one that was an impact player at one point, at several points throughout the season. So you just game plan is to focus on him, keep him out of my backfield, and we can move the ball.
Yeah. So I think that's an interesting one. I think some of those positions that we were talking about, Coach, we may want to circle back to our kind of surprise starters, and there may be some that kind of crop up in some of those groups later on. Mm-hmm. I don't want to steal any of your thunder for later in the show, but that I have a funny feeling that some of those may be, in that mix based on who you got, so to speak. I'm going to jump into the Broncos and kind of talk about 3 quick position battles that I think are going to be really interesting on the Broncos. One for me that I think is going to be really, really interesting, and this is in large part because the offense hasn't really been seen yet in a game setting. And I think the most interesting one for the Broncos is going to be the wide receiver position battle. I think that you're going to have an absolute slugfest at the wide receiver, battling for who's going to make it, how, and why. There is a complete competition up and down the entirety of that position group. I'm not even convinced that your Tim Patricks, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and KJ Hamler is kind of your returning guys that you think are going to start. I'm not even convinced that each of those guys has solidified their position within the Broncos offense, especially considering Sean Payton keeps bringing in more wide receivers to compete. And so
I thought they might be in on old Stephon Diggs, too.
Yeah. So, when you look at who's being brought in, a lot of those guys kind of fill some of those additional roles. And then add on to that we drafted Mims and traded up to get him. It certainly just leads you to believe that, there's going to be some interesting things occurring in that position group for the Broncos, to say the least. So I think that's going to be an interesting one. I also think that it's very difficult to predict simply because we haven't really seen where Peyton wants to take the offense. And so you don't know, hey, are we going to kind of use the large, tall kind of wide receivers that effectively match or, mirror kind of what our division rival in LA has? Like, is that what's going to happen? Like, is that we're going to see that kind of look, or are we going to see kind of a mixed hybrid of size, speed, possession? What are we going to see? We just don't know. The interesting thing that the Broncos do have is we kind of have one or two of each. It's an interesting problem to have, but we do. It's just a fact. Like we have kind of
we talked last week, right? That one's going to be out, or one or two. So what's happening.
And I guarantee that I at least two or three of the dudes that we cut from our wide receiver room will be very quick to be snatched up on the wire, so to speak. I think they're just too good to not get just pulled in by some other team. So that's one. The other one that I think is going to be extremely interesting from a position battle, and again, I'm taking the topic, at its face value here, and that is offensive center as a specific group for the Denver Broncos. I think, again, depending on how well our rookie Alex Forsyth picks up on it, if Luke Wattenberg, who is now with us for another year, if he can kind of step it up and kind of take a next step for us, and if Cushenberry can, learn to block at all, we may well have a really, really interesting battle in that center position. And what concerns me, actually, the fact that we have a position battle at the center position, is that's one of the few positions on the offensive line that is pretty mission critical in terms of meshing with your quarterback. And our starting quarterback is not a competition. That's going to be Russell Wilson. That's it. That is not a battle. That's just what's going to happen. And so you see what happened with, like, say, Jeff Saturday and Peyton Manning. You saw that unspoken word that they were able to kind of like just look at each other and it's like, yeah. and like certain nuances and certain plays were just kind of known between the two of them. And that's an important thing to have with your center and your quarterback.
When Peyton did a little bit of a pinch on his ass, which play was coming, if it was high, low, right, or left, it was muscle reaction.
Yeah, exactly. And then, if KY was on the gloves, he knew it was a different thing, and all the different things.
A little bit of
this. Yeah.
Oh, that play.
So, it's one of those things where
product placement.
Right. But there's just a different connection between the center and the quarterback, just because you need that synergy between those two players, say more so than a left guard and a quarterback, for example. And then the other one, from a purely interesting one, speaking of outside linebackers and bringing in competition. So it's almost like the coaches have kind of done a little bit of my job for me here in terms of picking out one. Outside linebacker, I think, is also going to be another very, very interesting position group in terms of battles for the Denver Broncos. Browning is hurt. He's not going to start the season as a starter. So we already know that there's at least a starting spot on the roster that's going to be up for grabs. And then you have an interesting mix within that group and who might fill that role. Is it going to be Frank Clark? Is it going to be Christopher Allen, who is hurt, but was literally slated at one point to be a second-round pick in that year's draft at one point? Is he going to just kind of surprise everyone and be like, yeah, I'm still here? And so we have a few interesting guys. Nick Bonito, is he going to get out of a funk that we've been hearing about in all these practices and stuff? And then two other guys, Jonathan Cooper and Aaron Patrick, are both outside backers that we have on the roster that may just come out and shine and really surprise everybody. So it's going to be that's a super, super interesting position battle amongst all those guys on the roster. And just as a quick honorable mention in terms of another one that's going to be super interesting for the Broncos, that's the safety position, particularly the strong safety spot. You have a real interesting group amongst that entire, those guys there in Kareem Jackson, Caden Stearns, and JL Skinner. And even dare I say at free safety, you have Justin Simmons, PJ Locke, and Turner Yell, who all of those guys looked really good last year, but you're not going to be able to keep 5 or 6 safeties. You're just not. So that's going to be a super, super interesting group because
you want to.
Yeah, well,
right.
But a good number of those guys started at some point last year and played very well. So that's another group of guys and another position group that I actually think if we don't keep them, they're getting picked up.
Could they potentially move on from Justin Simmons, or is he too pivotal at this stage?
Well, obviously, I think that depends on personal opinion, but then it also depends on contract. I think the contract is probably a little too punitive at this point. But you also have to remember, ownership didn't pay Simmons that's here now, and the coach didn't select Simmons who's here now. And so it just may be you just don't know is really what it comes down to.
Yeah. The contract's not that bad, honestly. You're looking at it about.
Yeah, it's not terrible, but
it's not terrible. Yeah, and he's 30.
Well, but on the flip side, is if you're going to move on to him, you may as well trade.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't let him walk for free. I would just
I'd
definitely trade him. Yeah, definitely trade him.
But that's the problem that you end up with a position group that just goes so deep. Is you have to start making those tough decisions on whether or not you're going to keep, a former face of the franchise, or if you want to reset and move on, right?
True.
You, in terms of who you think on the Raiders is going to be an interesting position battle.
Over to you, Cap.
Cap,
on me, right?
Yeah, on you, but
okay. First off, I'd like to apologize if you hear the drip, 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 drip. That is my mini split air conditioner leaking on the inside of my house, which pisses me off. Okay,
it sounds like a dog barking.
That's something that is I have to deal with. Yeah, well, it's not a dog barking. That's somebody else's channel. But yeah, so if you hear the blah, 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 that's the thing. For those that came in late, I changed my shirt. Mind your biscuits and life will be gravy, because they said I was wearing a damn donkey shirt, which I was not. Okay, so there you go. There. Okay. From the Big Biscuit. And what is the Big Biscuit? It is a fantastic, really awesome breakfast and brunch club.
Big biscuits, not just biscuits.
A restaurant in Kansas City. I wholeheartedly endorse it. There you go. If you're in Kansas City, go to really good stuff. I'm looking at some of the other things going on in the chat. I mean, Ken has got a heart on that needs to have some KY on it for Caleb Williams so much. And thank you, Jack, for the $5 donation. Okay, Caleb Williams is going to be a good quarterback, but like I told you, Jack, unless you are number one or you trade up to number one, just put it out of your head that the Raiders are not going to get him. Okay. Unless you trade up for number one, the Raiders are not going to get Caleb Williams. Okay. So, if the Raiders do, then there's your answer right there. But, just put your stiffy away, get some KY on it, let it go down naturally. Okay.
Just flex for a little bit. Just tuck it up.
It's just
Wow.
not. Don't worry about it. Okay. Now, as far as position, but I know the question's not for me, but put your stiffy away, Jack. I mean, I know. Okay, whatever. Now, as far as position battles, I'm not even going to touch the wide receiver room because I think there's presently about 12 on the roster. It's kind of like what they were having with. And by the way, Jack, thank you for the $5. That'll be a donation for the prize wheel. But they got way too many wide receivers, so that is a position battle that goes without saying. Who's going to be there remains to be seen. The position battles that I'm actually, and I'm not going to talk about backup quarterback either, because that is a position battle, which I feel by the end of training camp, it's going to be O'Connell as the backup, with Hoyer being a glorified quarterback coach and probably off the roster and will be used as an extra, coordinator, coach / guru for the people. He can come in and then kind of like with everybody's saying, like, well, that TB12 can come in. Well, no, if we need a quarterback in a pinch, we'll sign Hoyer to a contract like that. So there you go.
Jacoby Brissett.
There you go. Now, well, I wanted Jacoby Brissett. I said I wanted Jacoby Brissett.
But that'll finish the
trifecta.
That'll finish the all Patriot QBs in Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, I want one thing. I want to dispel a bunch of rumors, okay, about how the Raiders are pillaging all of these Patriot players. There are currently 2 Raiders on the roster that came directly from New England. 2. Okay? That is their fullback, Jacob Johnson, and Jacoby Myers that they signed to an unrestricted free agent contract. Hoyer was actually retired when he passed. I don't even count Hoyer. Everybody else that has Patriot roots, they got through somebody else. That's my point.
But once you have the New England stink on you, you always are a New England Patriot.
But the point is, everybody's saying that we right from there. No, we are getting people that know the system, but not directly from New England. That's my point. 2 players.
Brandon Bolden.
So keep that in mind. Now, Bolden was from somewhere else out to our roster. Okay, they went someplace in between. Okay, they went someplace in between. That was my point. Okay. Now, to position battles. I really think that I'm going to say the right side of the line is a position battle, because I'm not going to even differentiate between right guard and right tackle, because all of those guys are fighting for position. Illuminor with Mumford and Brandon Parker thrown in the mix just to spice things up at the tackle position. With Dalton Wagner, the kid that was the unrestricted free agent, that's a mountain. That goes alongside the other mountain, Curtis McClendon, I should say, who's at guard. And right guard, Alex Bars. My God, God help us if Alex Bars is our starting right guard. Kill me now. Don't do that. I want to see what happens. Natani Moody, who is actually backing him up right now, and some guy by the name of Gurman, who I have no clue who he is, so obviously he's not going to stick. But what I'm saying is that between Luminor and Mumford and the new kid Wagner, also McClendon, who is going to be popping in at guard. Okay, there's a lot of position battles, even amongst the left guard, but between Parham and Van Roten, Meredith, who was a very good player for us last year, and then got injured and started a few games, and McClendon. The position battles amongst the interior and to the right offensive line is going to be amazing. Okay, we're going to have a better crew than we had last year. it's going to be, that's the position battles. I had to do it like that because there's just so much stuff going on. Now, the other one that I'm going to do is position battles is amongst the interior defensive tackles with coach's favorite player already slated to be the starter. Okay. At one of the interior defense. Oh, I love the eye roll. I love it when I get an eye roll from coach. That's wonderful. That's like bonus points. Jerry Tillery, as well as Bilal Nichols, who came in last year. Yeah. But Terry Gillery. But the position battle is really amongst the kids. The two that we drafted last year, okay, Butler and Farrell, who are going to be another year bigger and better, along with the kids that we drafted this year, Byron Young from Alabama and Nesta Jade Silvera from Arizona via University of Miami. Those guys themselves are going to be fighting it out. Even the kid Jenkins, who is a house that we picked up from the Dolphins, he might fit in as well. And there's another Butler. I think that we actually have a run on Butlers. There's at least 3 of them on the team. So I can almost guarantee that there will be a Butler.
Like Butler.
The Butler.
The Butler did it.
This year. At least one of them.
He's like, here's our starting lineup.
And the other position battle, again, is the Butler. Yeah. But yeah, we're going to have 11 Butlers, okay? And one guy's by the name of Jeeves, just to throw things off, okay?
It was the Butler in the locker room with the candlestick.
Is that cornerback? Yeah. And I'm going to throw this out there as well. This is before we even sign and probably will sign Marcus Peters. There's a lot of conjecture out there that Marcus Peters will be signed by the Raiders. I think that's going to happen eventually. So remember, he's a part of this equation as well, although he's not officially on our roster right now. But between the guys that we signed at corner, David Long and Duke Shelley, Faison's back there, along with Amick Robertson, who's a holdover from last year, Sam Webb, who was a very good player in his rookie year last year. And then you got Bennett, Jacorian Bennett, who we actually drafted, I think is actually going to be one of those. Actually, I don't even see him on this damn. Boy, this is messed up. They don't even have him listed on the depth chart, so somebody really screwed up here. But Jacorian Bennett, who's getting a lot of first-team reps and OTAs, the cornerback room is not solidified. We're going to be a lot better than we were last year, cornerback-wise. And again, that is even before we sign what probably will be Marcus Peters. So those are my position battles. Peters, cornerback and line are the big position battles for the Raiders from your captain. It just brings me to tears just thinking about
I'm pretty
it.
sure, Cap, I'm pretty sure that
I got an eye migraine, but that's just the way it is.
I'm pretty sure both coach and myself said Bennett would be the surprise rookie or biggest contributing rookie last week for the Raiders.
Four names: Drew Sanders, Riley Moss, Jacorian Bennett, and Jabari Connor are coach defenses sleepers for the draft.
Dang, none are on the Chargers, huh?
Hey. Well, Tuli was a sleeper, but he got picked in the second round, so you can't really call him a sleeper.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you were sleeping on him in the first round, so I mean.
Well, yeah.
Oh man. But yeah.
For those who don't know, I did a whole series on sleepers before the draft.
So why do you think they're going to sign Marcus Peters, Cap? Where are you seeing? You just got a feeling they're going to add some veteran depth.
Yeah, I think that they're going to want somebody that has a little bit longer in the tooth to throw out there amongst because they did, like I said, they signed a bunch of guys that were worthy in Shelley and Long. Faison is like an extra add, and he's aight, but he's not a starter material. Shelley and Long are, but I really think that they're going to want to have. There he is. Bennett is listed as a nickel. I don't think that's going to happen as well. He's going to be on the outside, but I think that they want somebody that's a little bit more experienced. They're probably going to come down. Yeah. Peters wanted this much. The Raiders wanted to pay this much. They could probably meet somewhere in the middle.
Dude's kind of a cancer, though, but whatever.
Yeah. I understand that, but I think they're going to go with him now.
I say that like I know him personally, but
No, I've heard the same things you have as well. He actually, he is from Oakland,
former chief.
He has that. He's
got that dog in him,
right? And he's got that Oakland swag. He's got the Oakland swag in him.
So
I did read your super chat
Jack. I do know your super chat. Quickly answer it for you. I know I said I think Caleb Williams is and that's picking up steam everywhere. He's like the best QB prospect since Andrew Luck, which would obviously change the fold of the AFC West if he's there. But I'm not ever going to say that a rookie coming out of college is going to be ranked higher than Mahomes or Herbert until he proves something. I would probably rank him higher than Russell Wilson, but that's just because he's got to go above someone.
Well, and he can also reach the top shelf without a step stool. So I mean that's a given.
I saw it. So that there's that TikTok trend of say something nice challenge or whatever. And I saw Max Crosby did one on the QBs, and so it's like Mahomes, he's like elite. Herbert, he's like tough. And then it gets to Russell, and he laughs, and he goes, family man. I was like, damn.
That's the best you can come up with? Jesus.
Well, look on the bright side, Alex, on the bright side, the alternative could have been him saying he's got a hot wife.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Oh, that he does.
Now he's just out this country. Let's try.
No, but my point is that he said family man, which is at least a compliment towards him. It could have been even worse where he only complimented his spouse, right? And said like, yeah, I guess he's there. But,
his wife's nice. Yeah.
I
just thought it was funny because everyone else is like Burrow, he's like smooth. Lamar was like, I don't know, something, but then it's just family man from Russell Wilson.
No football superlative at all.
Yeah, nothing
football
man.
related.
Yeah. So I'm gonna throw over to Captain and get his take with regards to a position group. Who do you think is going to be a surprise starter for the Raiders in any position group for your team? Who do you think that you're going to say, he will overtake or he'll take that starting spot?
Yeah, that's
tough one, ain't it?
Muti.
Oh, wow.
That'll be my pick actually for the Raiders.
Oh,
yeah, it is. I think that these guys have been accounted for. I mean, I can see. Did you say Bennett? Because he might come out of the chute and start at one of those corners. Although I still think that he's gonna sit back and learn the system a little bit better.
I think Moody will start as your right guard spot.
I don't think so. I think that whoever loses the battle amongst the right tackles, they're going to slide him over to right guard. And the reason why I say that is Moody is a very good run blocker. But here's two things we have to worry about, and this is the elephant in the room. And we're gonna talk about the fact that Jacobs is still not signed, and he might actually be heading over to Denver if they got any draft collateral left. I'm not sure about that, but he might be going elsewhere. And
No
it
way.
might be
Going
more
elsewhere
of
for, like,
a running
weeks.
back by committee. And they really, I'm just saying.
I'll be highly
I'm
shocked
just
if y'all
saying, you know,
trade him
it might
to
happen.
the
But the other thing
Broncos.
is,
They're going to trade him internally
Moody,
in their division like that?
I think that if it comes down to he's pissed off, he wants to go somewhere, and the Broncos are already from allegedly saying, hey, we'll pay you 15 per for 3 guaranteed. And Peyton wants a damn good running back, you know, providing that the offshoot of that, whatever Denver has left
15
to
per?
do that,
The tag is only 10.
and the Raiders will be like a moat to being. I know, but that's the thing. He wants a long-term deal that's going to be high. Okay, the tag is 10, and it's like he might not take the tag, but if somebody wants to offer him that, they say, oh, okay, well, you got that.
He's
From
playing.
whoever,
I mean,
let's
I'd wait
make a
him
deal.
out.
I'd wait him out too, but you know there is a lot of people that are barking that it might happen. I wouldn't put it past the Raiders to say we're not going to pay you that much money. I mean, as a running back, okay, we're not going to pay you that much money as a running back because in today's NFL, it's a cog that is easily replaced. Now, granted, you might not. The quality of your cog might not be what you got rid of, but if it's a cog.
But so, like, look at it this way, right? When has there ever been a time? When has there ever been a time in NFL history where 2 of the top leading rushers from the previous year are quote unquote available?
Right.
And Dalvin Cook still is not. I mean, he's out there reporting his own interests of where he wants to go. You don't see him tied to anywhere. And then you got Jacobs, right, the leading rusher, the ground player of the year, getting tagged and might be getting moved. It's just crazy to me. Like it just blows my mind. One, that Dalvin Cook's still out there. And I think this really tells you how devalued running backs are, you know, as a whole. So it's like, if I'm the Raiders, I would almost wait them out, because if you moved them, you know, you're not going to get much for him. I don't think he's going to get the money he thinks he earns from somewhere else. And if he has an agent, I would imagine his agent's like, look, here's what Le'Veon Bell did. Don't do this. You're playing, whether you like it or not. So
I have
just
a different
go take
take,
$10 million. And
I have a different take. Well, you got to remember, Dalvin Cook is a vet at this point. Clearly, not only is he a vet, he's a good one,
right?
Right, but that's not where I'm going with it. They're going to be able to pick up a playbook quick and not have to, you know, spend a lot of time with it. Is basically what my point is ultimately there. And they are probably. I would imagine, if you want my honest take on this, that Cook has already got a suitor and they've already worked out deals. The whole point is he doesn't want to attend at least some of these mandatory minicamp. So my take on it is that Cook isn't saying anything because he's trying to get a little bit more interest because he hasn't signed on the dotted line to see if there might be just a little, you know, bump up in terms of some of the dollars and cents on the contract. But something tells me, I believe he's probably already got a suitor and the deal's already basically worked out. Now the question is, Jacobs, is he going to be able to get there? And I just think that you're talking veteran guys that are saying, I don't want to participate in the mandatory camps, and that's why.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I get that. I just don't. So, like, Dalvin Cook, I don't know where he finished, but I feel like he was definitely top 5 in yards and touchdowns. But I would think as a bona fide free agent, I would think that some team would sign him immediately. You know, it'd be like, hey, you don't want to come to camp, that's cool, but I'm going to lock you up right now before anyone else tries to get their foot in the door. because I value you as a running back, and I value what you bring to an offense, and I want that in my team, on my team now.
Cook was 9.
Okay. He's still up there.
Yeah, I said top. See, I was right. Top 10. Yeah, and I wasn't looking at the stats. I said he was definitely top 10.
Well, I think he was higher in touchdowns. I think Dalvin Cook was more of a touchdown machine. But, I mean, either way, it's just because he's only, 27, 26, 20, somewhere in there? I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah, but the problem with Cook is that, the tread, that there's some problems with the tread on the tire, i.e. he's got knee problems.
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook was 6th in rushing yards, and he was tied for 6, 7, however one you look at it, in terms of touchdowns with 8.
Okay. So, yeah. Well, it's like Coach, it's just a sad state for running backs everywhere. But, look at the Eagles, too. Eagles made the Super Bowl and let Miles Sanders walk.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we
got a very team-friendly deal to the Panthers.
Yeah. David Montgomery, 25, 26-year-old running back with the Bears, team-friendly deal. Yeah, so you had all these guys that were up there that I'd say 10 plus years ago wouldn't even have lasted a day on free agency, probably wouldn't even made it to free agency. I think that's how differently valued the running back position was. But I don't know, it's just wild. It's wild. I mean,
Sonny Michel got a job with the Rams before Dalvin got signed. That's crazy.
And the thing that's crazy too is, and I get that Jacobs was drafted under the Gruden Mayock regime, but I remember the biggest thing about him when they took him was that he didn't have, the tread on the tires, because he wasn't a true number one guy at Alabama. He has number one skill set, but obviously he was in a crowded room, and that was an appealing thing, is that he's not one of these running backs that's coming into the NFL with 3 years of 200 plus carries a season in college. And then it's
he had too much tread.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying though. It's
because he wasn't utilized as much. Not that he had limited tread, was that his tread still had the little knobbies on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think it's funny, right? I think it's funny though that they use that as a justification of well, this is why we're taking this guy in the first round, and then it's 4 years later. Now we're not going to pay you the 5th-year option, and we really don't want to pay you because you're banged up. Even it's just crazy how running backs are looked at.
And I will say, in my estimation, McDaniels screwed up.
Yeah.
Not picking up his 5th-year option, because I think the 5th-year option would have been about $1 million, which was $2 million that the tag is at 10. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know why you wouldn't have done that.
That was his way of saying. That was his way of saying we can do it without you. And then when in the preseason, the very first preseason game, Jacobs was playing. Okay. So here's the thing: he was disrespected by not having his 5th-year option taken. He was disrespected by being on TV, being used in that quote unquote extra preseason game. So he was pissed. He was disrespected. And I understand that. And I got it from a personal friend of his that I actually spoke to at the airport in one of the layovers when he was going back to Oklahoma. He was disrespected, and he told everybody that he was pissed off at the way he was disrespected. So he has an axe to grind, which is why he is gonna play hardball with the Raiders, because I'm not worth whatever. So somebody's gonna come to town that's gonna give me what I'm looking for, and I think he will be gone because of it. It's just what the Raiders will get in return is the big question. He might play that 1 year if his agent talks to him. But I honestly think in his mind, he's going to say, you know what there, Josh?
I'd rather not play than play. Yeah. Yeah. I don't blame him, though. I mean, it's just.
And do you know what the sad thing is, though? Any running back that seems to sit out a year always gets hurt.
Yeah.
Always.
I think running
lose
back
muscle
and
memory,
offensive line are, but I mean those are positions you have to kind of stay in the routine and not let your body get out of repeatedly taking hits, because the minute you do, it's like it's a totally different world. I mean, like, look at Le'Veon Bell, right? Absolutely dominated the NFL until he got into a money dispute, sat out, got the same amount of money, I think, or less with the Jets, and then just sucked. Granted, like, Le'Veon Bell could have been Le'Veon Bell because of the Steelers scheme and the talent around him.
That we argued quite a bit about when that happened, whether or not it was a scheme in the Steelers team and all of his line versus him being just that dude. So, get that.
I think it was a little bit of both, but I mean, obviously pretty apparent that the scheme.
What were the Jets at that time?
Ass.
Exactly.
Exactly. They're like, let's just throw a bunch of the high value, like, sticker shock prices at people, and then we'll make a Super Bowl, which now they're going to make it. I don't know if you knew that. The Jets are going undefeated. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Oh, is that the word on the street?
Yeah. According to Mike Greenberg, he's the host of Get Up, and he's a Jets fan, so I got to hear about it every GD day.
What's Greenberg say that I missed because I don't want to watch Mike Greenberg?
The Jets are going to the Super Bowl.
Jets are going undefeated, dude. Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers is the mecca of football.
Missing piece. He's a missing piece to that roster.
He is Jesus of football.
Greenberg is like him and Kellerman are the biggest New York putz homers going. Okay, yeah.
Kellerman's
and by the way, they're both Jewish, so I have to.
Whoa!
That Kellerman's an idiot, Greenberg's an idiot, and they're putz homers. And putz, in the literal Yiddish of what a putz is, you know what a putz is, right?
Yeah.
A putz is a response. A putz is one of these, a putz. It's a hanger.
So Coach, on that note,
great segue, by the way.
yeah, thank you. Who do you think on your roster is going to go ahead and take over the starting position? And let's not leave it hanging with your answer.
Right. Did Cap even say who his was? I don't think he did. I think we got off into a whole different tangent.
Yeah, no, he said, was it Bennett?
Bennett? Was it Bennett? Or that was what we said?
No, he agreed. He said that he thinks he'll come out the gate.
Okay. Cool beans. All right. Well, I had some you can go to the obvious thing to say, Quentin Johnson is going to usurp Josh Palmer and Jalen Guyton for the starting slot role. You can say that, but I'm going to dig deeper into the weeds, and I got a feeling. This is a slight feeling based upon his IQ that Deion Henley is gonna end up starting over Kenneth Murray and inside linebacker. That's my surprise starter. I think that I got my eye on him, and I got my eye on JT Woods. JT Woods is way too athletic and way too quick as a cover guy to not play. So I need him.
Second year, right?
Yeah, second year from Baylor. Yeah, him and Jalen Petrie were wreaking havoc in that Baylor secondary 2 years ago. So I expect a leap and bound for him. Yeah, Petrie's good. I love Petrie. Actually, which we'd had him. Honestly, I really feel like that it's between JT and Deion. I think Deion has an insider track because I kind of feel like the coaching staff is going to kind of more push him to be the starter because that spot's going to be vacated by Murray come next year anyway. So the quicker the better, kind of put him on the accelerated program. And I think because of his intelligence and his ability to pick up things quickly, I think that he's more of the candidate for me to be a surprise starter.
Yeah, I mean, he's a beast. I mean, I know we've talked about him a bunch of times, but he's a freak athlete. So,
Yeah. Right.
I mean, yeah, I'm excited to see what he turns out to be. Not overly excited because he is on the Chargers, but
right. But just from a football fan perspective,
I'm
yes.
excited for Madden because I'm going to trade for him and he's going to be on the Chiefs.
Oh, that's what that is. Okay.
I'll give you guys Tranquil back. I feel like that's a fair.
Oh, that's fair. Okay, he'll give me a 9-year-old linebacker for a young guy.
Yeah,
Madden will accept that. Madden will accept that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Been pretty hard to trade in the past few, so.
Oh yeah.
We'll see.
Okay. But yeah. The linebacker we drafted, I think he's going to end up being a starter. He maybe not right away, like week 1 of training camp, but I think that as slowly but surely we go on and he makes an impact in the preseason, I think that they'll kind of look at him like, hey, well, might as well just rip the Band-Aid off now, And I think him and Murray can benefit from Kendrick's mentorship too, because that's something we haven't had. Last time we had that was Thomas Davis. There's a nice mentor type of linebacker who's been around in the league a little while and kind of give you the nuances and things that you may not get just from a coach, or just other players in other positions. I think that's going to benefit them in their matriculation into the league as well. I think that's going to help big time.
You need a London Fletcher out there,
right? Yeah, that guy played forever.
That's what I'm saying. He was like 5'10" too. He was a
tackling machine.
Yeah, just like
tackling machine.
So I respected him.
Yeah. I think him and Zach Thomas were like the most undersized tackling machines I've ever seen in my life.
And just always had nose for the football, man. Always knew where it was.
Forever.
Yep.
So who's next?
So I guess for the Broncos, I have two position groups I'm super torn between because I think they can both yield interesting results. I'm probably going to go with the safety position, where I believe that Kareem Jackson will be usurped by Caden Stearns. I think that despite us bringing Kareem Jackson back, I think that they are going to – I think Stearns has probably already overtaken him from an athletic perspective in terms of the combination of size and speed and some of the other pieces there. I think Jackson has been a tremendous mentor, and I think that's the other reason why they brought him back, because they want him to continue in that role in mentoring Stearns, JL Skinner as well, who they drafted, and kind of continue in that kind of like coach on the field kind of role. But I think that Stearns will take over that spot as the second safety, starting likely alongside Justin Simmons. And if I had to pick another one, it would probably be that I believe that either Josie Jewell or Alex Singleton will be replaced or usurped by either Drew Sanders or Seth Benson. I just think that both of those guys seem to constantly be brought up in terms of how well they're doing in practices and on the field. And I think that you're going to start seeing their play shine in preseason. And I think the Broncos are going to just simply say, young blood, they're here. Both of these guys are kind of in like the last year of their deals with the team. Time to kind of change the regime at the inside linebacker spot. Frankly, we need it. We need better inside backers that can kind of cover better so that we don't have to constantly rely on smaller, quicker guys. You want those bigger guys that can help cover those tight ends that have the size and height. And so I think that Sanders and Benson might surprise a lot of people in terms of either being number 2 on the depth chart, or I think one of them might even usurp one of those guys at the inside backer spot. And last but not least, Alex, take it away.
Boom. All right. Well, I know out of the position battles that I discussed earlier, those guys are certainly dark horses. I mean, although not, I guess not really, because I didn't talk about them in the earlier topic. But to me, I think the one that I haven't discussed, and looking at kind of who's around and who else is fighting for time, I would say the biggest dark horse, or maybe not biggest, but for me as a Chiefs fan, the biggest surprise would be Felix and DK Uzoma kind of taking a larger share of the edge rushing pass rush presence than anticipated. And I say maybe not a big surprise because, I mean, he was a first round pick. But I also think that it was a pick taken, it was a position of need, but it also kind of fit the narrative well of like, he's a Kansas City kid. He played at Kansas State and the draft was in KC. So, there's a good chunk of Chiefs fans out there that weren't overly happy about it, but I know I mocked him in a couple drafts that we did on the show. Certainly has great pass rushing skills. I mean, was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year and had 20 plus sacks in his career. But I said Big 12, right? So that's a little defense is not overly valued in that conference compared to others. But I think that he has a good chance. One, because Frank Clark's no longer there, huge veteran presence. He's in Denver, unfortunately, and they brought in Charles Omenihu, who has great upside, like I think was the second in the NFL in pressure percentage, but, was not the clear-cut starter in San Fran. He kind of was a rotational piece with Joey Bosa and Keenlaw and the other guys that they have, in their pass rushing set. So, it could on paper, he could show up and just be, the be-all in terms of what they need to replace the production, or I should say the postseason production of Frank Clark. But, I think Felix has a pretty good chance with the tools and what he put on film in college to take a larger role than they're thinking he needs to, which, I mean, is not a bad problem to have, especially losing Frank Clark and trying to retool your Super Bowl lineup and also not having a whole lot of interior pass rush guys. I think that he's going to end up being leaned on more because they focus more on bringing in more edge rushers and interior, pressure creators. So I think that could be kind of the surprising one when you look at kind of as a whole. Like I know a coach had mentioned Rashid Rice, which I think he definitely could work his way in to overtaking, MBS or someone for a little more of the target share. But I think kind of looking at how Casey played last year, I don't know that there's, outside of Tony, being the number one, at least that's what they say now, I don't know that there will be a clear number 2, number 3 guy. I think it's going to be a lot of moving parts with Sky Moore and those guys, such that you're not really going to know who overtook who because they're all out there running routes and they're all getting looks. So to me, I think given what was lost off the edge, Felix has the best chance to kind of be the surprising benefactor in all of this.
This is exactly what I was referring to at the early onset of the show, which is we all went out and grabbed the less sexy positions, but really solid depth at those less sexy positions this year. And I think that's what you're seeing in all of our comments and all of the players that we think are going to slot in. It's at all of those position groups: inside linebacker, safety, defensive end, not pass rushing necessarily, but like defensive end, that kind of, it's all of those, less sexy position groups, or guard, for example, not left tackle, but guard. It's those spots, which I think that we're going to, see some really, really huge boost in the division. And I actually would predict that what we saw last season, where we all thought we might do really well and most of us did not, I think you might start seeing that since we all focused on perhaps the more important positions this year, where you might see a complete inverse of what we saw last year, where you start seeing the AFC West really start to get into those upper rankings in the AFC and really get 2 or 3 members in the playoffs sort of thing.
I think it's funny too that it seems the AFC East has that narrative this year, right? Like that they're going to be the toughest division. Like they're all the best teams. They're all those teams are linked to any high caliber guy that's released.
And
So
the division winner is going to be 8-8 or 8-9.
It's gonna be like the Patriots or something.
Right, 9-8.
Yeah, they're gonna be like 10-7.
Right.
No, I agree, and that's because they went and got the flash players. They got the wide receivers. They got the quarterbacks. They got this. They got that. And the less sexy positions have been neglected, and we saw the results of that in our division last year. Which is a pass rush only accounts for so much. You have to have a solid tackle. You have to have good linebacking core. You have to have all of these other position groups if you ever want to be successful. And I think that's why this year the AFC West will actually see a pretty big boost forward because we focused on those less sexy but very critical positions.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, guys, we've had a great show, great comments, lively chat. And all sorts of wonderful things. Do any of you have anything else you want to cover off before we wish all of our loyal listeners a wonderful evening?
Go Chiefs.
Bolt up.
Other than go to Smack Apparel and get your 10% off discount with the code Captain Jack. And I'm saying it's all sports, man. It's not just football. They got really good stuff there. Go to Smack Apparel. I fought for a 10% discount as a person that is with them. Go get it. Captain
Fantastic.
Jack is your what do you call it? Key.
Plug. Your plug.
The only thing I will say, since we're going to also include plugs in this, the link down below in the description, you can get the Wild Wild West gear. We have some T-shirts and other things like that.
Yeah, we do.
I'm actually be wearing that shirt. I'm going to be wearing that Wild Wild West podcast T-shirt next week. It's a cool logo. You can see it up here on the far right. Man, I messed that up again. But anyways, you can get all the stuff down below. All sorts of different things. And I'm not going to lie, the T-shirts are extremely high quality. Like this, it's a really, really nice fabric that they're printed on. So I highly recommend taking a look at those.
Cashmere?
Pardon me?
Is it cashmere?
No, it's not cashmere. Oh, geez. Do you know any of these guys? But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, until next week, where the West Side is the best side. Peace.
Yeah! Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.